Good day, grade 5 learners. Welcome back to our virtual discussion. So in this video, we're going to discuss second quarter, week 8. So last week for our second quarter. The most essential learning competencies involved in this lesson are as follows. First, expresses ratio using either the colon or fraction. So ito po ay medyo na-discuss na natin last week. Second, identifies and writes equivalent ratios. And third, identifies and describes a proportion. At the end of the lesson, you will be able to first, express ratios in colon form and in fraction form. Second, identify equivalent ratios. And third, identify and describe proportion. Let's start with lesson 13, ratio using either the colon or fraction. So, eto pong lesson na to ay medyo napahapyawan na natin last week. So, ngayon, lilinawin na lang natin yung iba pa nating information na dapat matutunan about or regarding writing ratios in colon form and in fraction form. Last week, you have learned that the ratio is used to compare two sets of objects and two measurements. Aside from that, you also learned that the ratio can be written using colon between two numbers or in fraction. You also learned that in writing ratio, order is important. Meaning, kung ano po yung nasa statement natin, dapat yun din ang makikita sa ating symbol. Kung ano yung unang term na nag-appear sa ating statement, kailangan yun din ang makikita natin sa ating symbol. Aside from that, ratio can also be written in simplest form, just like fractions. And for you to be able to simplify a ratio, you must use the greatest common factor to simplify each term of the ratio. And how are we going to do that? Let's have some examples. Write the following ratios in column form and express it in lowest term. Let's say we have 3 apples to 6 oranges. First, you have to write the actual ratio of the given set of numbers. 3 is to 6. After getting the actual ratio, find the GCF or the greatest common factor. What number can divide 3 and 6 equally without remainder? So our GCF for this given is 3. After getting the GCF, divide both terms to find the lowest term. 3 divided by 3, that is 1, and 6 divided by 3, that is 2. Therefore, the lowest term of our given is 1 is to 2. Next, let's say we have 9 tables to 27 chairs. Again, write the actual ratio first. So we're going to have 9 is to 27. After writing the actual ratio, find the GCF. What number can divide 9 and 27 equally without remainder? We have 9. And then, for the lowest term, divide both terms of your ratio by the GCF. 9 divided by 9, that is 1. And 27 divided by 9 is 3. Therefore, our lowest term is 1 is to 3. Another example, let's say we have 72 students to 8 teachers. Again, write the actual ratio. We're going to have 72 is to 8. And then, find the GCF of 72 and 8. By doing so, we're going to have 8. Then after getting the GCF, divide both terms by 8 to get the lowest term. 72 divided by 8 and 8 divided by 8. Therefore, our lowest term is 9 is to 1. Now, let's answer this learning task. Learning task 1, express its ratio of the first quantity to the second quantity and reduce it to its simplest form. Write your answer in your notebook, but instead of writing your answer in your notebook, sabayan nyo na lang po sa pagsasagot si teacher. Now, Let's start with number 1. First, express your actual ratio or rewrite your actual ratio. So we have 2 teachers to 46 pupils. Ano po yung magiging actual ratio natin dito? So we have 2 is to 48. After writing the actual ratio, get the GCF. Ano po yung number na pwedeng mag-divide kay 2 and kay 48 equally without remainder? So that is 2. So by doing so, pag dinivide natin si 2 by 2 or 2 divided by 2, we're gonna get, oops. So we're gonna get 1 and then 46 divided by 2, we're gonna get 23. Therefore, our simplest form is 1 is to 23. Next number, so number 2, we have 21 garbage cans to 14 classroom. Kagaya nung ginawa natin sa first or sa number 1, rewrite muna natin si actual ratio. So we're gonna have 21 is to 14. And then, get the GCF. Ano po yung number na pwedeng mag-divide kay 21 and 14 equally without remainder? So that is 7. 21 divided by 7, that is 3. Then put our colon. And then 14 divided by 7, that is 2. Therefore, our simplified form is 3 is to 2. Next, for number 3, we have 36 glasses of juice to 30 sandwiches. Actual ratio, we have 36 is to 30. And then, get the GCF of 36 and 30. Divisible by what number siya? Or ano yung number na pwedeng mag-divide kay 36 and 30 equally without remainder? So we have 6. 36 divided by 6, that is 6. And then 36 or 30 divided by 6, that is 5. Therefore, our simplified form or simplest form is 6 is to 5. Then, your turn. Answer number 4 and number 5. So, pwede nyo pong i-pause yung video para sagutan ang number 4 and number 5 sa inyong notebook. So, what will be our answer in number 4? For the actual ratio, we have 12 is to 4. Then, get the GCF of the two number to simplify it. Ano po yung GCF niya? Correct? 4. So, 4 or 12 divided by 4, that is 3. And then, 4 divided by 4, 1. Therefore, our simplified form is 3 is to 1. And for number 5, actual ratio natin, we have 4 is to 10. Get the GCF of 4 and 10. Ano yung number na pwedeng mag-divide kay 4 and 10 equally? We have 2. Then divide both terms by 2. 4 divided by 2, that is 2. And 10 divided by 2, that is 5. Therefore, our simplified form is 2 is to 5. Again, ang atin pong separator na ginagamit for ratio is colon. If you are asked to write your ratio or express your ratio in colon form. But if you are asked to express your ratio in fraction form, we may use this line, yung pa-slash. O kaya naman po yung ganito. Pwede po yan. Any of the two kapag fraction form po ang gagamitin or hinahanap sa atin. So for this lesson, remember, to simplify ratio in lowest term or in lowest form, we use greatest common factor to simplify each term of the ratio. After getting the GCF of the two terms or of each term, divide, and then kung ano po yung magiging sagot or ating magiging quotient, yun na po yung magiging simplified ratio. Now, let's proceed to lesson 14, equivalent ratios. Paano naman po natin masasabi na equivalent ratios sila? Equivalent ratios means equal ratios. Ibig sabihin, pantay or equal silang dalawa. So, to identify a ratio equal to a given ratio, we just simply multiply or divide the numerator and the denominator of the given ratio by one counting number. Kapag nasa base ratio siya, or yung nasa pinakamaliit na ratio, para makuha natin ang equivalent ratio niya, we multiply by one counting number. Ano ba yung mga counting number na yon? We start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. Not included po si 0 as counting number. Mag-i-start po tayo kay 1. Kapag naman masyadong malaki yung ating number or given ratio, we divide the numerator and the denominator to simplify. So, isi-simplify naman po natin siya kapag sobrang laki to get the equivalent ratio. So, yung pinag-aralan natin or yung na-discuss natin from lesson 13, that is also an example of equivalent ratio kapag na-simplify na natin to get the equivalent ratio of our given number. And then if a given ratio is a multiple of another ratio, then the ratios are equivalent. Kapag daw po multiple ng isang ratio ang isa, meaning equivalent sila. Now, let's have these examples. So find the first three multiples of the given ratio below to make equivalent ratios. Again, multiple or first three multiples. So, parang magmumultiply lang tayo. So, start tayo kay 1. So, since first three multiple po yung hinahanap, so 1, 2, and 3. Lagay natin sa table. So, let's say, ite-table natin. If we multiply a number or these numbers by 1, ano po yung magiging first multiple natin or first equivalent ratio? 1, again, kapag nagmumultiply tayo, hindi lang po sa isang number or sa isang term, i-multiply natin both terms para makuha natin yung equivalent ratio niya. 1 times 2, that is 2. Then 1 times 3 equals 3. Therefore, equivalent ratio ni 2 is to 3 is also 2 is to 3. Equal naman talaga sila. What if we multiply both numbers by 2? Since dun sa general definition natin, ang nakalagay lang naman ay one counting number. So, any counting number, pwede nating i-multiply sa ating given ratio para makuha natin yung kanyang equivalent ratio. So gawin natin si 2. If we multiply both terms by 2, ano po yung magiging equivalent ratio niya? So, 2 times 2, we have 4. And 2 times 3, we have 6. So, since nakalagay po sa ating example, find the first 3 multiples, proceed tayo kay 3. So, kagaya ng ginawa natin kay column 1 and column 2, multiply 3 by both terms. So, 3 times 2, that is 6. And 3 times 3, that is 9. So, eto po yung mga possible or yung possible equivalent ratios ni 2 is to 3. Next, tingnan naman or kuhanin naman natin yung possible equivalent ratios ni 6 is to 7. If we multiply both terms by 1, ano po yung magiging sagot natin? So, we have 6 is to 7. Kapag naman by 2, we have 12 is to 14. And kapag naman by 3, we have 18 is to 21. So, ganun lang po kasimple ang pagkuha ng equivalent ratio. All you have to do is to multiply your given ratio by one counting number. So, any counting number pwede nating gamitin. Pero kapag mga examples, malimit natin ginagamit is a single counting number. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. Now, proceed tayo kay number 3. So multiply both terms by 1, we're going to have 7 is to 2. If we multiply both terms by 2, we're going to have 14 is to 4. And if we multiply both terms by 3, we're going to have 21 is to 6. So, ganun lang po kasimple ang pagkuha ng equivalent ratios or equivalent ratio. So, now, let's tell whether the following ratios are equal. Paano naman po natin ma-determine if they are equal or if they are equivalent or not? So, for you to be able to determine if those are equal, kailangan nating i-simplify both ratios. So, first ratio is-simplify natin and then also the second ratio is-simplify. If their simplified forms are the same, kapag parehas daw, ibig sabihin, equal sila. So, try natin si number 1. We have 8 is to 10, blank 10 is to 15. So, again, paano mag-simplify? Get the GCF of the two terms. After getting the GCF of the two terms, divide. And then, kung ano po yung magiging sagot, yun na yung ating magiging simplified form. So, ano po ang GCF ni 8 and 10? Correct? We have, or we're gonna divide both terms by 2. So, by doing so, ano po yung magiging simplified form natin? 8 divided by 2, that is 4. And 10 divided by 2, that is 5. Next, dito naman, sa susunod na term or sa susunod na ratio, get the GCF of 10 and 15. Divisible by what number siya? Correct? Divisible by 5. Then divide both terms by 5. 10 divided by 5, that is 2. And then 15 divided by 5, that is 3. Kung makikita natin ang simplified form, 4 is to 5, 2 is to 3. They are not the same, hindi sila magkaparehas. Therefore, these ratios are not equal. Again, para ma-determine if the two ratios are equal, find or simplify the two ratios. Kapag parehas ang kanilang simplified form or lowest form, meaning equal sila. Kapag hindi naman, not equal, syempre. Another example, let's say we have 14 is to 40 and 9 is to 24. Kagaya ng ginawa natin kay example 1, get the GCF or find the GCF of the terms. So, si 14 and 40 divisible by what number sila? They are both divisible by 2. By doing so, kukunin natin or i-divide natin. 14 divided by 2, that is 7. And then 40 divided by 2, that is 20. Next, 9 and 24. Divisible by what number sila? They are both divisible by 3. Then 9 divided by 3, that is 3. And then 24 divided by 3, that is 8. And then compare. 7 is to 20. 3 is to 8. They are not equal or they are not the same. Therefore, these ratios are not equal or not equivalent. Another example, let's say we have 10 is to 13, blank 20 is to 23. Again, kuhanan ang GCF ni 10 and 13. Kung mapapansin ninyo, wala na silang ibang common factor other than 1. Same thing with 20 is to 23. If that's the case, ito na yung simplified form nila. Kung i-compare natin, makikita or visible na they are not the same. Therefore, not equal po sila. And then, number 4. So, tingnan naman natin si number 4 if they are equal or not. Again, simplify every term or each term. Ano po yung GCF ni 15 and ni 12? Correct, we have 3. So, this 15 divided by 3, that is 5. And 12 divided by 3, that is 4. Then, dito naman, sa kabila, we have 35 divided by 28. divisible by what number sila? So, they are divisible by 7 or yung GCF nila is 7. So, 35 divided by 7, that is 5. Then, 28 divided by 7, that is 4. Then, compare yung lowest terms nila. 5 is to 4, then 5 is to 4. They are the same, parehas. Therefore, they are equal. So, again, para malaman if the two ratios are equivalent or equal, make sure that the lowest term nila ay parehas or equal. So don't forget to determine if the two ratios are equivalent, simplify each ratio. If the simplified ratios are equal, then the ratios are equivalent. Last lesson, so lesson 15, how to define and describe a proportion. So when two ratio are equivalent, they represents proportion. So kapag daw po sila ay equal, that represents proportion. A proportion can be written in fraction form and in column form, just like a ratio. So paano po natin siya isusulat in fraction form? Let's say we have 1 over 2 equals 1 over 2. In a column form, we have 1 is to 2 equals 1 is to 2. So, ganun po. Parehas lang. So, 1 is to 2 equals 1 is to 2. And 1 over 2 equals 1 over 2. Parang kagaya lang din po ng pag-write ng ratio in column and in fraction form. Ang pinagkaiba nga lang is you have the comparison between two ratios. So, yun po yung pinaka-basic idea ni proportion. Comparison between two ratio. In each proportion, the outer terms are called extremes and the inner terms are called means. So, kagaya po nung example natin kanina, i-rewrite natin, 1 is to 2 equals 1 is to 2. So, yung nasa loob, yung inner term natin, that represents the means. And then, yung outer, that represents the extremes. So, yung tatandaan. Yung nasa labas, yung nasa magkabilang dulo, that is the extremes. Yung nasa gitna, yung magkatabi na number, that is the means or those are the means. So, a way to check if a given set of ratios are proportion or not is to use the cross product rule. So, let's say we have 1 is to 2, kagaya na nga nung ginawa natin kanina, yung first example natin. 1 is to 2 equals 1 is to 2. Let's see if they are proportion or not. Paano daw po? By using cross product rule. When we say cross product rule, that means the product of the means should be equal to the product of the extremes. Kailangan kapag pinag-multiply natin si means and si extremes, yung product nila parehas. So, try natin. 1 times 2, that is 2. And then 1 times 2, that is 2. Therefore, they are proportion. Let's try another example. Let's say we have 2 is to 3 equals 6 is to 9. So, tingnan natin if they are proportion or not by doing the cross product. First, multiply the means. Ano po yung product ng means natin? So, 3 times 6, that is 18. And then, proceed tayo sa product ni extremes. 2 times 9, that is 18. Same ang product nila, therefore, they are proportion. Again, kailangan po ang product ni means and product ni extreme ay equal para masabi nating proportion sila. Now, let's have some examples. Tell whether the following set of ratios are proportion or not. So, kunin muna natin product of our means 2 times 12 that is 24. And then product of our extremes. 4 times 4, that is 16. Compare the product. Is 24 equal to 16? Definitely no. Therefore, they are not proportion. Hindi sila proportion. Again, tatandaan, proportion ang dalawang ratio if and only if the product of the extremes or the product of the means is equal to the product of the extremes. Another example, let's say we have 5 is to 10 equals 25 is to 20. First, get the product of the means. So we have 25 or 10 times 25, that is 250. And 5 times 20, that is 100. Is 250 equal to 100? Definitely no. Therefore, they are not proportion. Hindi sila proportion. Third example, we have 3 is to 9 equals 9 is to 27. Kagaya nung ginawa natin sa ating first two example, get the product of our means, 9 times 9, that is 81. And then product of our extremes, 3 times 27, that is also 81. Is 81 equal to 81? Yes. Therefore, our ratios are proportion. Fourth example, we have 7 is to 1 equals 5 is to 3. Same thing with items 1 to 3. Get the product of the means. 1 times 5, that is 5. And then get the product of the extremes. 7 times 3, that is 21. 5 is not equal to 21, therefore, they are not proportion. So don't forget to determine if the two ratios are proportion, use cross product rule. If the product of the means is equal to the product of the extremes, therefore, the two ratios are proportion. That's all for this lesson. Hope this video helps you to understand more about ratio and proportion. Thanks for listening and see you in our next discussion. Happy learning!